Hello! All right. Can everyone in chat hear me? I'm just making sure that my sound works. All right, I'm guessing because I hear a hello that you guys are good. So right now what you're going to see is that everybody is working on taking down Garland right now. Garland threatened to knock us down. What you're going to notice is he's going to do a very poor job of knocking us down, because we're going to beat him up with the judgment staff that we just glitched from the leather cap. So real quick, just to explain the glitch. The way the glitch works is that the weapons and armor both share similar values. So what you do is you use that memory for the cursor, and so if you have the cursor on a weapon slot and then try to glitch over to an armor slot, if you press the bumper and X at the same time, it allows you to pull up weapons and armor that are not usually available this early in the game. So what you'll notice is that the runners have already gotten the judgment staff as well as the knight's armor, both items that are not usually available this early in the game. Now notice xelnas has picked up the loot, which serves no purpose until the very end of the game. But the nice thing is that, unlike in the NES version of this game, the PSP version does not allow you to leave that room without picking up the loot. So the NES version will actually allow you to get trolled and make it so that you can't get through the Chaos Shrine if you don't have the loot. So xelnas here is getting his bridge because he's the Light Warriors, and Light Warriors need bridges. Maybe that's because Light Warriors are bridge builders. Not exactly sure how that works. I'm a huge fan of chocobos, although I prefer them fried as opposed to steamed. Now you'll notice as the runners are moving around on the world map, they're doing their best to try and avoid forested areas. The reason is because forested areas have a raised encounter rate. So when you're walking on forest tiles, you have a high probability of running into critters. So they'll try the best that they can to either use plain tiles as well as marsh tiles. The marsh tiles are preferable. They have some of the lowest encounter rates in the game. Now the nice thing about this cutscene is it's one of the few cutscenes that we can skip. So as soon as you see the birds, the runners are just mashing X, so that way they can skip this cutscene and continue to move through. And they're having some fairly decent encounter luck right now. Haven't seen a whole lot of wolves. Oh, never mind. Spoke too soon. xelnas just got some wolves. The horrible thing about wolves at this stage of the game is that we haven't started glitching items that raise agility, and so the wolves have a very, very high agility score, and so it can be sometimes very difficult to get away from them. So see, xelnas has now entered Provoca, and Provoca has a problem. The problem that Provoca has is pirates. Now since it's not September and International Talk Like a Pirate Day, the pirates are causing problems. And so xelnas is going to show off what the Judgment Staff does if you're not already familiar with what it does. So the Judgment Staff is actually an item that is from the additional bonus dungeons that were put into the GBA and PSP. You'll notice that the Judgment Staff casts Flare, which for those of you more familiar with the NES version is Nuke. And both of our runners have nuked the pirates out of existence. So of course, what do Light Warriors need after they destroy an entire pirate crew? A boat. So now we're going to go and get our boat. Now who's manning the boat? I have no idea, because we just nuked all the pirates out of existence. But the boat moves nonetheless. Now you'll notice that HolySmith on the right went into the item shop. He went to pick up a leather shield. So the reason he's picking up the leather shield is because later on he'll be able to glitch that when he goes into his menuing, he'll glitch that into the Mage's Staff. The Mage's Staff will allow HolySmith to cast Fire for free. So it appears that both of these runners are using a slightly older route. The newer route would have them focusing more on using magic obtained and using the black mage to cast magic. Whereas both of these runners appear to be using the items. So the items will allow them to cast the magic for free. The thing about the items, though, is you just have to make sure that you remember where on the items list they are. So there may be a little bit more menuing if you're not very familiar with where they're placed. That's true. They don't have access to the magic yet. They generally will not attempt magic if they're going to until after the Marsh Cave. Marsh Cave is usually about the earliest when we're speedrunning Final Fantasy 1 that you can pick it up, and you have to have level 8 to pick up Fyra and Thundra in Elfheim. Because for the most part, we don't use a lot of the magic when we're speedrunning. If we were going to use magic, you're going to use Fyra, Thundra, Blazeria, Teleport, and Haste on the black magic side. And on the white mage side, you really have the white mage for one purpose, and that's Healara. So that way in the final fight, white mage can just keep everybody alive. Now this early part of the run is one that we hate a lot because all these forested tiles. So this is where you can really have a lot of RNG play early on in the run. So for instance, I did a race earlier this morning and lost almost an entire minute going through this area just because I had really bad RNG, both with getting encounters as well as sometimes the wolves want to pretend that they're an unrunnable encounter. So you'll find as you're watching the Final Fantasy 1 speedrun that there are times where the runners will engage and kill enemies, and usually that is because those enemies cannot be run from. So we have to engage and kill them. But for the most part, if we can get away from them, we're not going to kill them. Just because it takes time. And because it's a speedrunning, we're trying to conserve time. Alright, now HolySmith is getting ready to step onto what we affectionately refer to as a spike tile. So as soon as he gets away from these gray oozes, he's going to heal up, and he's going to step on a spike tile that has Pisco Demons. Now, the reason he healed up is because the Pisco Demons have a very high probability of doing a crit. So if they do a critical hit, they ignore the really awesome armor that everybody's wearing right now. And so they have the potential, if you don't heal up, they can kill some of your characters. And depending on which character they kill, it can be somewhat of a bummer. For instance, the white mage and the black mage, we want to try and keep them alive as much as we can, because we really need those levels later on. And now, having defeated the Pisco Demons, HolySmith has picked up the crown, and he's going to go give the crown to someone who claims to be an elf king. Now, if we were doing a casual run, we would have wandered all the way over to the Western Keep. We would have run into somebody that said that they needed a crown so they could help the sleeping elf prince. Now, because it's not a requirement to go and talk to him first, we were able to go, grab the crown, and we're just going to head over to the Western Keep. So it'll be the first time that we see the guy who purports to be the king. Now, xelnas, you'll notice, had 2 Pisco Demons. So the way that spike tile works is you can have a minimum of 2 up to 4 Pisco Demons. If you're doing the Black Mage Lust Dagger route, a 2 Pisco Demon fight is not optimal. You'll have to, if you are trying to pick up magic in Elfheim, you'll have to absorb another random encounter. So that way you can bump up your white mage and black mage to level 8. Otherwise, you'll just have to pick up the magic the second go around as we're doing our magic shopping. Now the nice thing about the Marsh Cave is for the most part it has a fairly low RNG, so it's of the dungeons we're going to go in, it's easy to get in and out. Now you'll notice HolySmith is talking to the man who claims to be a king, Astos. And shocker, he's a dark elf. So he wasn't really king. But that's okay, because we're going to punish him for being an imposter. So generally what you'll do is you'll have your two melee attackers hit with the Judgment Staff, and the second two, the Black Mage and the White Mage, will use the Judgment Staff. And that's because with their higher intelligence, they can do a lot more damage with the Judgment Staff. I know, who would have guessed? Astos? Not who he said to be? That's okay. He just really, his whole sole purpose is to play into this giant fetch quest that we're doing throughout the first part of this run. So for the most part, the world has been locked away from us. As the Light Warriors, we need access to the entire world. So in great early RPG fashion, we have to do lots of mini fetch quests to open up other access to the world. So HolySmith has now apparently left the crown with the dead body of Astos, but decided to pick up a crystal eye. In the NES version, it's a crystal ball. So I don't know why they went with crystal eye. But of all the things in a throne room, we decided to pick up a crystal eye. You'll notice xelnas is now going to take on Astos, and you'll see the exact same thing play out, where his top two are going to hit with the Judgment Staff, and the bottom two are going to cast Flare using the Judgment Staff. Now, if you haven't noticed already, when the runners get ambushed, that is probably some of the absolute worst RNG luck that you can have. Because with an ambush, not only do you not get to run right away, but all the monsters get to take a swing at you first, and then you get to try and run away. So when you get hit by a pack of wolves, you may have 7 or 8 wolves that get to take a swipe at you before you have the opportunity to try and run away. Now, Sahagins can be really bad this early in the run, not because they do a whole lot of damage. You'll notice they're doing 1s on HolySmith, but because they have just as high agility as wolves. So they're the wolves of the sea, or sea wolves. So it can sometimes take a long time to get away from them. Some runners actually give up trying to run away from Sahagins, and we just use Thundra, or we kill them off with the Judgment Staff. So right now HolySmith has a little bit of a lead, probably around a minute lead. The way this game works though, a minute lead can be erased fairly quickly. There are certain parts of the run that if RNG is not with you, it is very unforgiving. So HolySmith sailed the pirate ship underneath the bridge that was so wonderfully built for us by the king, and he's now in Matoya's cave. So here's an unskippable cutscene where Matoya gets to demonstrate for us that she can't see because she's missing her crystal eye. Apparently she only has one good eye, so that's why we need the crystal eye. So it just so happens that Astos had the crystal eye, to which we never get an explanation of why he had the crystal eye. But at least we get a partial explanation for why Matoya has the Jolt tonic. It's because she's a witch. So witches brew stuff, right? So that's how we get a Jolt tonic, because reasons. So now we're going to take this Jolt tonic, and it's going to jolt our sleeping prince awake, so that we can then finish all the fetch questing, so we can get out into the bigger, greater world. I think xelnas is keeping track of how many ambushes he's had. I think that's what the counter's for. I'll see next time he has an ambush and see if the number 8 magically appears. Oh, he's just verified. It is indeed an ambush counter. So HolySmith is going to wake up our sleeping elf prince. And it's amazing. Everything is so magical in this game. We give the Jolt tonic and the prince awakens immediately. We hand Astos the crown. He immediately turns into a dark elf. You'll notice this magic just happening throughout the entire game, that things just instantaneously happen. Alright, now you'll notice HolySmith stepped out of the castle and stepped back in. That actually saves you a couple seconds instead of trying to circumnavigate the entire castle. So he enters here into the treasure room, and he is going to glitch the Thief's Armlet. So the nice thing about the Thief's Armlet is it stacks a higher agility. So if you're watching, you'll see that his invasion is jumping up every time he glitches the Thief's Armlet. So you can actually stack all these items. And so we'll be doing this throughout the run. Most of the items that we're going to be glitching into the helmet, armor, and glove slot are to increase our agility so that it makes it easier for us to get away. So for instance, now that he has Thief's Armlets on all of his characters, it'll make it so much easier to get away from Sahagins and wolves. Now they'll still try and hold on to you, but traveling on the sea as well as through forests is a little bit easier now that we have a higher agility. So say hello to Cornelia, everybody, because this is the last time we'll be in this castle. So take a look around, enjoy the carpets that you're going to see with the old guy standing on them, because we're not going to see them anymore. Alright, so we go specifically into this treasure room, and we get nitro powder. Now what would you do with nitro powder? Well, since we're not driving NASCARs, we're obviously not going to use it for nitro to make our cars go faster. So we do the only thing there is to do left if you don't have a NASCAR. We're going to go find some dwarves to hand it to. So again, if you were just casually playing this game, you probably would have wandered around and accidentally found the dwarf cave. If not, you would have eventually tried to, through trial and error, figure out that there are some dwarves that could really use this nitro powder. Now you'll notice xelnas is going into the item shop. The reason he's going to the item shop is he's picking up some golden needles. The golden needles are very important. Potentially can be very important in the earlier part of the game where we have cockatrices and other enemies that can stone you. For the most part, whenever you don't buy the golden needles is when you regret it, because you'll have your party petrified and it makes it really, really hard to kill some of the enemies. For instance, if you need the warrior to hit really hard and he's a statue and everybody's just dragging him around. Now the nice thing is, because it's a video game, they can drag that statue around the entire game. It's a pain because, as I recall, Elfheim is one of the only places where you can get a golden needle, so you'll lose time going back to get it. Alright, so HolySmith has started the cutscene for destroying the, I guess that's an isthmus? I'm not really good at geography. But right here is where you can skip the cutscene. So what happens is, as it switches graphic engines from like the standard sprite engine to the cutscene animation engine, that's usually where we can skip through a cutscene. So that's why with the bridge cutscene as well as the isthmus blowing up cutscene, you can skip through that. Oh, there you go. See? Thank you, chat. I did guess right. It was an isthmus. See? Middle school geography was not completely wasted on me. So our runners just high-fived each other. HolySmith is walking past to get back to his boat. xelnas is still trying to go through and get his dwarf to be a happy dwarf because he gets to blow stuff up. So HolySmith is getting ready to go to the town of Melmond. It's a very happy and joyous place. All the plants are dying. And if we had time to talk to everybody, they would tell you that they think that there's an evil in a cave. Now you'll notice HolySmith is going into the armor shop. He's going to pick up some steel gloves. And using the steel gloves, he will glitch probably the most powerful sword in the game. Well, first he's going to pick up the mage's staff. He wanted to glitch that so that way he can cast Fire for free. You'll notice then he glitched the barbarian sword. So the barbarian sword is by far the most powerful melee weapon that we're going to use throughout this run. I think it is the most powerful sword in the game. I would have to double check that. Either that or Porsyth can tell us, because he knows a lot about the game. I'm still learning it. I'm from the old NES era, so I'm learning all the new material that was added through the GBA and PSP versions. So the barbarian sword is a bonus item that you get from one of the additional dungeons that get added with the GBA and PSP versions. So it pretty much makes the warrior and the thief just these giant cannons. They just go through and they just can, for the most part, one hit almost every enemy in the game, minus bosses. Now this is HolySmith when he's in the Earth Cave. This is one of the first dungeons where you have an unrunnable enemy play. It's not so much in B1 or B2, but in B3 you have the opportunity to run into Pisco Demons. Pisco Demons, for some reason, are unrunnable throughout the entire game. So anytime you run into Pisco Demons, you have to fight through them. So we'll see if he runs into them. Because this is the floor where you would run into them. This is also the floor where you can run into a cockatrice, which is why you want to have golden needles. I'm not sure if they're playing on an emulator. Most of the runners use the emulator because it's easier to reset. And it also reduces load times. If you have the PSP with the actual UMD, load times make it very disadvantageous to play, just because of all the load times and stuff, especially when you're saving your game. With the PSP on the ISO, for the most part, it runs almost as fast as the emulator. The reset is a little bit faster on the emulator, as well as saving is a little bit faster on the emulator. So HolySmith is now getting ready to engage the evil, vile vampire. And the vampire is going to be really, really hard to fight. You just watch this. Probably one of the hardest fights in the entire run. Bye, vampire. He's gone. But boy, he talked a good game. Now, you have to be careful when you get hit by large groups of undead. Undead have the ability to, at random, paralyze your party members. If you get everybody paralyzed, we call that a paralock. And then you just get to watch your party die a death of 1,000 paper cuts. It's really not fun. Sometimes you'll hang through it and try and run away. If you've had a safety save fairly close, it sometimes is easier just to reset and just replay that area. Because it at random brings your characters back out of being paralyzed. So sometimes it's just not worth trying to go through that. Alright, xelnas is now in B2, so he's making his way over to fight the evil, vile, super hard to beat vampire. And HolySmith, who is also on B2, has just walked past actually no, he's still on B3. So we're going to see our runners high five again. as HolySmith starts to exit the dungeon and xelnas continues to go into the last level that we're going to go to right now, which is B3. And you'll see that xelnas just had what we lovingly refer to as bat blocked, because the bats as NPCs can just float around and get in front of you. And then you'll have to push them out of the way. Now xelnas just ran into Pisco Demons, so you're going to see he has to fight through them. Now you'll notice that because xelnas is using one of the older routes, all of his characters are equipped with the Barbarian Sword. So now that HolySmith has gotten the ruby, he's going to exit the dungeon, because what you would have found, xelnas just tried to run away from Pisco Demons. I hate when that happens. Sometimes runners get a little anxious, and so they'll hit the bumpers too quick before they realize that they're in an unrunnable encounter. And so they have to wait for the running animation to complete for all the enemies to get a hit, and then they get to try again to kill everybody. So with HolySmith is wandering over to the Giant's Cave because he just happens to know that giants have a sweet spot, and it's for ruby snacks. So it just so happens that the Star Ruby for slang for giants is a ruby snack, and so we will give the Star Ruby to the giant. He will crunch and munch it, and then we'll stop impeding our way. He'll move out of the way in the absolute slowest walking animation in this game. See? Really slow. Still going. Still going. Okay, once you see the head nod, that's when we're finally free of this mini cutscene animation, and HolySmith can continue. Now xelnas has just gotten the Star Ruby, so he's now going to have to exit. Had we stayed in B3 and done what most people who casually run through, we would have gone through the vampire's throne room, gone to the back, and realized that there is a giant earthen tablet sitting on the exit that we need. So HolySmith did what we will do throughout this run. You find a sagely old person with a really long white beard, and they just magically seem to have the item that you need. So HolySmith just got the earth rod, and he's going to go all the way back to use the earth rod to get through that tablet that's sitting on top of the ladder that will let us into B4. xelnas could be in trouble here. So far he's only had one petrification. He's been really lucky. The cockatrices were hitting him, but they only petrified one of them. That's not bad, but that's exactly why you need the golden needles, just in case that happens. I did a run one time and did not pick up the golden needles because I hadn't needed them. And then of course, had a petrification, tried to just muscle through to Lich, and then Lich would just constantly cast Blizerga before I could hit him twice with the Thief. So that painful, scarring memory has helped me to remember to always pick up the golden needles. So now HolySmith is going to retrace the entire dungeon he's already done, levels B1, B2, and B3. And then he will have access now, because he has the earthen rod, to B4 and B5. Now our runners have just high-fived because xelnas is heading out with the ruby snack, and HolySmith is heading back in with the earth rod. Now notice that the earth cave getting out can take a long time. I have timed it multiple times going in and out. My fastest earth cave I was able to get out in just under 2 minutes. My longest one was almost 5. So how does one use the golden needle? So I actually did some research. It turns out that human statues are very ticklish. And so you take the golden needle and you kind of wiggle it in the ear of a petrified human, and it wakes them right up. They just come right out of it. I don't know how it works. This game uses a lot of magic, so I just chalk it up to magic. Somehow magically wiggling a golden needle in a statue's ear removes petrification. Yeah, who knew? I mean, tickling, one of the most powerful things in this game. Now, HolySmith used the Judgment Staff to take out the Pisco Demons. Since there was only 2 of them, to conserve time, it might have been better to use the Barbarian Swords and just kill both of them, but it also depends on menuing. Sometimes it is faster just to go, if you already have everything prepped to use the Judgment Staff, to use the Judgment Staff. The problem with the Judgment Staff is it is an 8-second long casting animation. So by far, of the spells that we will use in this game, it's the longest animation, which is why most runners will try and pick up since HolySmith and xelnas are using an older route, they'll try and pick up items that use slightly weaker spells, because they use less time in the spell casting animation. Ooh. Is that some Greek mythology knowledge drop over there? This down required it. That's really interesting. And HolySmith in another unrunnable encounter with Pisco Demons. Apparently he did not have a shakedown before they went into the Earth Cave, and one of his characters must have Pisco Demon bait in their pockets. It's always important to do the shakedown before you go in there, because Pisco Demons cannot resist it. It's sort of like catnip for Pisco Demons. Alright, so HolySmith has gone through B4. B5 is one of probably the most, aside from B1, is probably the most straightforward. Up, down, slightly left, and up again. So he's going to heal up all his people. Well, actually, he's going to heal up Black Mage and White Mage, and he's doing a safety save. It is highly recommended to safety save before Lich, because sometimes Lich will outmaneuver you, and if he outmaneuvers you and casts Blizerga, he will party wipe you. Because at this stage in the game, your magical resistance is based off of your level. Our levels are so low, we cannot resist. We do not have enough magical resistance to survive Blizerga. Now he was lucky. Warrior and Thief both moved before Lich had a chance, so he was able to take out Lich right away. xelnas is just having some really awful RNG luck, which may look bad right now, but there are plenty of opportunities for the game to turn around and skunk you. So HolySmith is being forced to watch one of the cutscenes that is unskippable. So we saw the crystals magically light up, and they're going to be surprised every time this happens. So get used to the surprise animation. But here, one of the caves that you would have seen as you were wandering around looking for Matoya's cave had a statue of Lich. So the statue is removed once you kill the Fiend of Earth. And if you so chose, you could go into that bonus dungeon and fight some additional bosses that have been added, as well as get some bonus items. So if you wanted to fight against the Phantom Train from Final Fantasy VI or Gilgamesh from Final Fantasy V, you have that opportunity. You just have to fight through the bonus dungeons, and those will be your bosses. I think Ultros from Final Fantasy VI even makes an appearance, because everybody likes a fiendishly smiling octopus who loves opera. Don't forget that. He really likes opera. So HolySmith, now that he has completed the Earth Cave, is going to go to Crescent Lake, and he's going to pick himself up a canoe. Now, how is he going to know who to get the canoe from, you might ask? It's magic. You'll watch. You'll see. It'll be pretty easy to see. xelnas is trying to fight through B4 so you can get to B5. There we go. He's made it to B5. B4 can sometimes, because you have a lot more unrunnable encounters, can make it really slow going. Also, the encounter rate is upped a little bit on B4 and B5. The other thing that stinks is as you're having to maneuver around bats, it adds extra steps. Now, as far as we have figured out, there is no way to do any RNG manipulation like you see in the SNES version of Final Fantasy IV or Final Fantasy V. Like, if you'll watch those speedruns, they have a step route where they walk on specific tiles. They'll do things before they start a run to manipulate and make it so they have a specific seed. Final Fantasy 1 PSP does not do that. So the RNG you get is the RNG you get. There really is no way to manipulate it. I mean, there's a couple of little things, but for the most part, you can't. Alright, so now we are putting black garb. If you look on HolySmith's side, he's putting black garb on everybody. Black garb ups agility again. So what we had with the Thief's Armlet is going to be raised even higher with black garb, so it continues to raise our ability to evade. Very important. When you're trying not to fight people, you want to be able to run away faster. Now, this is the only party formation change you're going to see throughout the entire run. And the reason we have to have the party the way it is throughout the run is because, for instance, the warrior's sole purpose in life is because he can equip just about every doggone weapon and piece of armor in the game. He is there to be able to glitch items back and forth. That's really his purpose. Look, random old guy with white beard just magically has the item that we need. Now, where was this guy hiding the canoe? I don't see a canoe sprite anywhere near that old guy. I cannot imagine that his robe is billowy enough to hide a canoe underneath it. Now, the nice thing with the canoe is that when we're traversing lakes and rivers, they have an encounter rate very similar to marsh tiles. So as you're traversing all these different little streams and lakes, you hopefully will run into less monsters. That's the theory. Usually works. Usually. Notice I said usually. The fact that an Ochu jumps out at HolySmith right as he gets in the river, it means that the Ochu was the welcoming committee. The Ochu just wanted him to come out and play. Yes, but the nice thing is, unlike Minwoo, the old guy we got the canoe from, doesn't die. Minwoo dies. Final Fantasy II, aka the fourth party member, will usually die. Alright, so HolySmith is doing a safety save. Before you go into Ice Cave, every runner should do a safety save, because Ice Cave has so many party wipe opportunities available. In a run last week, Terralyn got party wiped 4 times in the Ice Cave. So the Ice Cave has a lot of party wiping RNG available. Alright, xelnas is picking up some ethers. So he's picking up the ethers for later on in the game when he's going to need haste, teleport, and healera. Because I haven't seen him buy any magic at this point. So I'm assuming he's still going with the Judgment Staff route. Now HolySmith has run into an Ice Gigas Winterwolf. This is an unrunnable encounter. And sometimes runners will try and use the Judgment Staff. The problem is, a lot of times when you have your Black Mage and your White Mage set up in a melee setup, so they have like a Barbarian Sword and stuff like that, they're at too low of a level for the Judgment Staff to kill the Ice Gigas, because the Ice Gigas has such a high HP. Not exactly what I meant about when I said party wipe, but you know. Now, Wraith Inspectors have a high agility, so HolySmith may have a little bit of trouble trying to get away from these guys. Also, they can trigger paralysis. So HolySmith is going with the safe route, which is to just wipe them out instead of trying to run. You run a risk if 2 party members are already paralyzed. If the White Mage, Black Mage don't get away, that's 9 opportunities for an undead creature to paralyze the last 2 members and get paralocked. So that's generally a fairly safe tactic. And xelnas decided to do the same thing that HolySmith did, and decided to step onto the ship on one part of the port, and then immediately step off again. So what happened is the Light Warriors are port inspectors, so they were just checking both sides of the port to make sure that it was safe for commerce. Now, HolySmith in the Ice Cave has just run into one of our 1 in 64 encounters, the White Dragons. So in the Ice Cave, the White Dragons are not supposed to happen very often, but when they do, you either want to run away really fast or kill them right away. Because again, our magical resistance is very low, so an Ice Storm from a White Dragon can very possibly wipe out your party. Now, in this game showing how unintuitive it is, unless you know what you're doing, you have no idea that you're supposed to be stepping on broken ice tiles to fall through to the lower level. When I was casually playing through this as I was getting back familiar with the game, I wandered around the Ice Cave for a while before I actually read the speedrunning guide to see that, oh, I'm supposed to be stepping on broken ice. Should have known better. Alright, so here you'll notice the HolySmith did a defense. What he's doing is he's trying to set up for the Evil Eye to Thundra his entire party to wipe out the Thief and the Warrior. Now he had the almost next best thing, which is a gaze. Had the Evil Eye gazed both his Warrior and his Thief, he would have been good to go. But unfortunately the Thief dodged the gaze, so he had to wait for the Thundra. So that wasn't a totally trolly Evil Eye. He did eventually cast Thundra. There are some times where the Evil Eye will wait for a while. But now with the Warrior and the Thief both dead, this will allow for HolySmith to focus the leveling on his Black Mage, White Mage. So this is the only level grind in the entire run when we're using this glitch on the any percent category. This is the only level grind that you do, and you're just trying to get Black Mage and White Mage to level 18. Because by the time you get to when you need some of the higher level spells, level 5, level 6 spells, you'll already be at level 19 and a White Wizard and a Black Wizard, and you should have access. So that's really the only reason we're grinding at this point, is to make sure that we have access to those spells that we need, because we're going to need Teleport, because it allows us to move around dungeons faster, and we're going to need Healara, because otherwise, because we're such low levels, Chaos will just completely own us at the end of the game. And you're going to need Haste, because we're going to be so low leveled, allows our melee characters to do enough damage that we can take out Chaos before he casts Curaga. Now see, xelnas is slowly making his way, falling through the floor, getting to the Evil Eye. Alright, so now that HolySmith is at a level 18, he's going to resurrect the Thief, heal him up, and then he's going to continue on. And the reason you don't raise up the Warrior is because you want the Thief to gain some levels. By the Thief gaining a couple levels, ninjas, which will be what the Thief class changes into, can cast some of the lower level black magic. Ideally, if you can get the Thief a high enough level, you can get 2 casters for haste, which can make the chaos fight a lot faster if both the ninja and the Black Wizard can cast haste. So that's why we'll leave the warrior dead, because for the most part, the warrior at this point is at as high. Oh my goodness, HolySmith, you are so lucky. So dark wizards can cast Firaga, and if a dark wizard ambushes you and casts Firaga, party wipe. You're done. And since I didn't see him save yet, he would have had to completely redo the ice cave in the level grind. So the RNG was with HolySmith there. Now see, xelnas is in the same position that HolySmith was earlier. 3 members of his party are paralyzed. This could be bad. We may see a paralock. Nope. He's going to escape to fight another day. But that can be very scary, because with a paralock, you then have to make the decision. Are you going to stay with it, or are you going to reset? Because a paralock, you can lose a lot of time if you just sit there and wait. So anyways, back to the warrior. So the warrior stays dead because at this point in the game, he's about as high level as we really need him. He'll hit hard enough that it's fine. And really that's the only purpose the warrior serves. Actually, the only purpose the warrior serves is for the glitching. So we really don't need him other than boss fights and the chaos fight. So since we're not going to do a boss fight for a while, we're just going to leave the warrior dead to give the thief an opportunity to try and level up a little bit more. You'll see xelnas is defending. He's trying to get the evil eye to kill his warriors so that way he can start his level grind. Oh, that's going to suck. The evil eye just petrified his white mage. I think he's trying to find the golden needle so he can bring his white mage back. There we go. Okay. So he's going to try and put the golden needle, wiggle it in the white mage's ear, wake the white mage up. He's also going to heal up a little bit to make sure that his black mage and white mage can survive a Thundra. Alright, and there's Thundra, so he got the black mage healed just in time, so he doesn't have to try and resurrect the black mage. Alright, so now xelnas will begin the grind. Now HolySmith has just gotten the airship. The airship, spoiler alert, is Lufenean technology, and the bats that you saw in the Chaos Shrine, that was the Lufeneans' attempt to have some light warriors try and fix the time loop issue. So actually that airship was the previous attempt to fix the universe's air transportation. Alright, so we talked to old guy, so that way we can have access to the Citadel of Trials. So now we're to the part that is always my favorite part, being a person who grew up in the late 80s, early 90s. I refer to this as Bahamut likes horrible 90s hairstyles. We are looking for the rat tail. I don't know why Bahamut would want a rat tail. I thought it was a terrible hairstyle in the 90s. I can't imagine why he would want to resurrect that here in Final Fantasy. Now I'll give you a trick or a tip to know what to do in the Citadel of Trials. With these teleporters, if you walk in the wrong ones, it can put you in an endless loop walking back and forth. So here's the hint. Always take the lower teleporter. So if there's a teleporter that's down, so if you have 2 teleporters in a room and one is higher, one is lower, always take the lower one. Now it tries to trick you, and it puts you in a room at the bottom and has 2 teleporters above you. You still want the one that's the lower one. It's the one on the right. Now notice HolySmith is fighting the nightmares. He could run away from the nightmares, but the nightmares have a really high agility characteristic. So a lot of times it's easier just to kill the nightmares than to actually try and run away from them. You can waste a lot of time trying to escape from nightmares. Also, since he's trying to level up his thief, this is a great opportunity to get some extra XP to try and get his thief to a high enough level so that he can learn haste. Now xelnas has completed his level grind, so he's going to try and get out of here before white dragons try and party wipe him. Now xelnas made the choice to resurrect his warrior. And because the first white dragon attacked him, he survived. Had both white dragons ice stormed him, he would have been done. So he was very fortunate that the first white dragon did a melee attack. So I think Xelnas will live to escape the ice cave. Congratulations, Xelnas. So both of our runners have seen a 1 in 64 encounter in the ice cave, which is the ice dragons. There's a couple of places throughout the game where there's the encounter rate for a specific creature or monster is 1 in 64. So there's usually a lot of hype, especially in the floating fortress, where we want to see a specific 1 in 64. I think we have finally seen him once, but when we get there, you'll see the chat doing all sorts of hype for it, so I'm not going to spoil it for you. Now, HolySmith has not done a safety save, and he's getting ready to traverse this desert. Now, the issue with the desert is the desert has sandworms. The sandworms have the potential of casting Earthquake. We're a low enough level that Earthquake will wipe out our party. So some runners will elect to safety save as they're going in and out of the desert, just because having a sandworm Earthquake and take everybody out is very painful. Now I, knock on wood, have not ever had that happen to me, but I've seen it happen to other people. But I, like HolySmith and Xelnas, always take the gamble and just like walk through it. Even though a safety save only takes, I mean, if you can menu it properly, it only takes about 5 to 6 seconds. But still, like when you're racing neck and neck, that 5 to 6 seconds can make a big difference. We've had races that were decided by 36 seconds. Now Xelnas is doing the cutscene for the airship, and you'll notice we're getting ready to change graphical engines, so we can skip the cutscene. I think I see Xelnas' mouse cursor. Hello, mouse cursor. How are you? Oh, now it's gone. Bye, mouse cursor. So HolySmith has given Bahamut the awesome 90s hairstyle of a rat tail, and in reward, he has had a class change. So the warrior is now a knight, the thief is now a ninja, the white mage is a white wizard, and the black mage is a black wizard. So I refer to the ninja as a glass cannon. For the most part, he doesn't take some hits really well, but boy, he hits like a Mack truck. Alright, so HolySmith is doing shopping a little earlier than what I'm used to. That's because I run the Black Mage Lust Dagger route. But he is picking up some of the only magic spells that he's going to need throughout the remainder of this run. So this is the part in a run when you're watching the speedrun race where you're going to see runners possibly deviate. It's not really faster or longer changing it. It's just that different routes that you're using will prescribe you to pick up spells and stuff in different places. So for instance, on the Black Mage Lust Dagger route, you'll usually go through Golg first, kill Marilith, and then go and pick up spells. Alright, so you'll notice that HolySmith just put Lordly Robes onto his White Mage. The reason you would do that is Lordly Robes raises the intelligence of the White Mage. I believe it's by 20 points. So by giving Lordly Robes to the White Mage, it makes the White Mage better at using the Judgment Staff. So it'll raise how much damage the Judgment Staff does. Now you're probably wondering, why is HolySmith trying to walk on as many lava tiles as he can? Well, I'll tell you. The reason he's walking on all the lava tiles is because when you're walking on a lava tile, you cannot suffer from a random encounter. So runners are going to try and walk as much as they can on lava tiles to reduce how many random encounters they have throughout Mount Golg. Now the problem you run into is that as you step on a lava tile, every time your sprite blinks yellow, all your characters take 1 point of damage. So as you're going through, you'll notice that at this point, all of his characters are now in double digits on hit points. So as long as you're not ambushed by something, you should be fine. And we have a high enough agility at this point that it's really hard for someone to ambush us. At least the enemies that are in this area, they're not going to have a high probability of ambushing us. So HolySmith is going to heal up all his characters. So he's going to use Healera. So from now on, HolySmith probably will not be using any more of his potions. Usually the potions are just there until you get Healera, and then it's more beneficial to use Healera and just ether up the white mage or the white wizard at this point. So that way you can use Healera. It's much faster and more economical because you can heal everybody at the same time. So we're going to fight Merilith. Now because he has everybody with the Barbarian Sword, he may just have everybody attack. Yep, and that's what he's going to do. Oh no, he has 2 Lust Daggers, but the Lust Daggers still do a pretty decent amount of damage. By having your White Mage, Black Mage attack, it usually makes it fairly easy to do a one round with Merilith. Oh, xelnas is lost. He's trying to find the Bahamut's cave. There we go. It can sometimes be really hard because when you're navigating in that airship, when you're seeing all that ocean, there are times where you start to really second guess yourself if you're going the right direction or not. And so you can sometimes turn the wrong direction and completely screw yourself up as you're trying to fly to where you want to go. So even some of the most experienced runners will occasionally either just have like a brain fart, or they second guess themselves and they'll burn holes in the sky flying their airship around as they basically reorient themselves to the map and try and get to where they're going. So now that we've gone to Mount Golg, HolySmith is, I'm assuming he's going to go and get the Oxial, but we'll see where he's going. Yep, he's going to get the Oxial. So he's going to go to the caravan, which in the NES version, you could actually land the airship on the caravan. Now there's no way on the map to see that the caravan is there, you just have to know that that's where the caravan is. So on the NES version, you can actually land the airship right on the caravan and walk in. That was fixed in the PSP version, so we have to land away from the caravan. And you'll also notice that HolySmith not only bought the fairy bottle, but he also picked up Giant's Tonics. Now the Giant's Tonics are very important because when we get to the Chaos fight, if our ninja and our black wizard's HP is too low, some of Chaos's AoE attacks will kill them in 1 hit, or in a couple hits if the white mage's Healera doesn't raise their HP enough. Like for instance, Tsunami and his Cyclone, those are his 2 most damaging AoEs. If you do not have over 250 HP, there's a good chance that that'll take you out. So runners will make the judgment right as they're going into Chaos, whether they need the Giant's Tonic or not. So we'll generally pick up a couple Giant's Tonics so that way we can cover our bases. So HolySmith has picked up the Oxial. The Oxial is another wonderful magical item. One of the only ones that we don't pick up from an old white bearded man. We get it from a fairy, who, because fairies can live, I guess, forever, we still get it from an old person. It's just a fairy. And the Oxial allows us to breathe underwater. So now that we have the Oxial, HolySmith is going to head over to Onric, and he's going to go into the Sunken Shrine. But you'll notice he got hit by the Ice Gigas and the Ice Wolf, so he has to kill them first because that's an unrunnable, and then he'll continue to move on to the Sunken Shrine. xelnas is making pretty quick movement here in Mount Golg. So I think he might be making up a little bit of time here. Now here's a cool thing. That was a mermaid that HolySmith just talked to. and the mermaid just flew away. Now, I'm not a super scholar when it comes to Greek mythology, but I don't remember mermaids having the power to fly. Now, they could swim, they can breathe underwater. As I recall, they had a way, because they were supposedly beautiful, they could enchant sailors, but I do not remember flight being one of their powers. All right, so Xelnas is fast approaching Merilith. You know, maybe she is swimming through the air. I mean, air does have water molecules. You bring up a good point. All right, so Xelnas has taken out Merilith. So he has activated his fire crystal. HolySmith is now walking on the only floor in the sunken shrine that does not have random encounters. This floor is covered in mermaids. If you wanted to, you could talk to all of them and they would tell you the sad tale of what's happened to the sunken shrine. For our purposes, we don't care. We want the Rosetta Stone. Now, if you watch, you're about to see why we went and got teleport. Because what teleport does when you're in a dungeon is it takes you to the previous floor you were on, and where you exited that floor and went to the floor that you were just on. So we cast teleport twice, getting us back to the first floor that we were on in the sunken shrine to save us a lot of time having to walk around those two floors, walking all the way around to get back up to that top floor. All right, you'll notice that Xelnas is on his way to finish his fetch quest. He's found Onric. Oh, actually, that was Gaia. So he was at the town of Gaia, but he's not ready for Gaia yet. He has to go and get himself a fairy bottle. All right, so here on the Sunken Shrine, second floor, for the second time, we're just on a different section of the floor. HolySmith is going to go pick up the light axe. Now you'll notice that HolySmith went specifically to the right of the treasure chest. That is because directly to the left and directly to the bottom of the treasure chest are spike tiles. Now, it's a runnable encounter, so it's not a bad ambush, or I mean a bad spike tile. It's just, it takes time to enter into the combat and then run away from the combat. So it's much easier just to walk to the right side of the treasure chest and pick up the light axe. Now you'll notice he completely decked out his white mage with lordly robes. So now the white mage can pretty much use whatever magical item, and since the white wizard is androgynous, his or her heart desires, based on however your white mage has always been. If you've always identified your white mage as a male, it's a he. When I'm talking about the white mage, if you've always identified your white mage as a female, it's a she. But regardless, the white mage now has a high enough intelligence that when the white mage casts a healing spell or uses one of the items that casts a spell, she can do it with devastating results. Devastating if it's black magic, awesomeness, super awesome. If it's white magic, so. All right, so Xelnas is looking for a landing spot so he can go to Onric. A little bit higher, a little bit higher. There you go. So now Xelnas is going into Onric so that way he can take on the Kraken. Now the thing is, if you were doing a casual run, Kraken can be very dangerous. In this speed run, Kraken is probably the easiest of the four fiends that we're going to fight. It looks kind of like with this sprite, they were trying to channel a little bit of Ultros. I mean, look at those fangs. But I think Ultros wore it
wore it better. That's just my humble opinion. I think he wore it better. But anyways, bye Kraken. So much for releasing the Kraken. He's gone. So if I had to guess, I think HolySmith has about a 3, maybe a 4-minute lead right now. Because xelnas is going to have to go all the way down. Oh, that's unrunnable, xelnas. I don't know if you can hear me. It's unrunnable. You cannot run from if you see that party arrangement of Sahagin princes and chiefs, you cannot run from that. That is an unrunnable encounter. But the unfortunate thing is, when you try and run away from them, you have to wait for all 9 enemy sprites to attack you, and for all 4 of your running sprites to stop running, which unfortunately wastes so much time. So HolySmith, having reactivated his crystal, is going to go to the waterfall cave. Now, as far as dungeons go, the waterfall cave is probably the last really confusing dungeon that we go in. At least as I was learning the run, that was the last really hard one to navigate. Now, the other thing about the waterfall cave that I personally hate is the RNG here is just off the chain. Of course, HolySmith's not going to have any RNG problems, but I do. xelnas, you'll notice that he had to use the judgment staff on those ghosts. Ghosts are an unrunnable encounter. You have to fight them. You cannot run from ghosts. You'll see HolySmith is now trying to run away from nightmares with the black garbs. He's now got... Or did he put the survival vest on? I didn't remember seeing him glitch survival vests. If he glitched the survival vests on them, they have a really, really high agility now, so now it's a lot easier to run away from nightmares. You know, that is an important life lesson, knowing that you cannot run away from ghosts. And that's why you call the Ghostbusters. And one of the things that I do is I will try and encourage my chat, and I will tell them, okay, as I go in here, here are the unrunnable encounters, and I'm hoping that before I do the left and right bumper, that they say, no, don't run. Unfortunately, because there's a delay, when they tell me not to run, I've already tried to run. So it doesn't work. I'm still looking for another method. Now, HolySmith here is on a spike tile. You have to run into that encounter. There's nothing you can do about it. So you just have to wait and run away from it. And it just so happens that we run into a robot that's been babysitting a warp cube. And we're going to need the warp cube because that's what allows us to go into the Mirage Tower. Alright, so xelnas, now that he's picked up the Rosetta Stone, is now going to move to the other side of the Sunken Shrine, and he's going to go and get to Kraken. Kraken the Kraken. So now that HolySmith has the Warp Cube, we're now going to do a quick little fetch quest so we can get the Chime. The Chime is the last key item that we have to collect in this game. So he will go to Melmond to talk to, I think his name is Dr. Une? I think that's his name. So Dr. Une is up in the top right-hand corner. You have to watch out for the blue-haired guy. He can walk in your way, be a very big pain. Now, Dr. Une, because this game focuses on magic, he's going to look at the Rosetta Stone. He will immediately know that it can help him to learn Luphanaean, and then will immediately teach us a foreign language. Now, myself knowing a couple foreign languages, you usually cannot learn a foreign language in less than 10 seconds. But because this game relies on magic heavily, with magic, I suppose you can learn a foreign language in less than 10 seconds. Now, because the blue-haired guy, aka Ken Carroll's father, can sometimes walk in your way, so that's why most people will just go ahead and use the teleport spell and get out. Now, notice HolySmith tried to maximize the fresh water, so he intentionally tried to use that because that's where the lower encounter rate is. Now, because you cannot run away from a zombie minotaur, he went ahead and used the mage staff, and that killed off all the enemies. And because his white mage has so many items stacked on it that it can use any magical item and really hurt somebody. So HolySmith is going to head to the, I think it's supposed to be a hidden city of Lufenayan. Yeah, you cannot run from zombie minotaur, so he's going to just have to take them out. Xelnas, now having finally gotten to the first floor, is going to walk all the way around so that way he can get to the Kraken. Alright, so Xelnas has triggered the Kraken fight, and HolySmith has gone into Lufenia. There you go, Lufenia. Now, Lufenia has a lot of opportunities for NPCs to get in the way, but HolySmith, the RNG god is with him, did not have one Lufenian get in his way. So he's able to get directly to the one NPC who's not moving around that has the chime. He'll cast teleport, so that way he can avoid the NPCs blocking him again, and get right out. So now, with the warp cube and the chime, we can now go into the Mirage Tower and have access to the Flying Fortress. So that way we can go and take care of Tiamat. And you'll notice on Xelnas' side of the screen, the Light Warriors were surprised that yet again, after killing a fiend, the crystals turned on. Which really raises the question, how high is their intelligence rating? I mean, they've already seen this twice. They see it a third time, and they're still super surprised when the crystals turn on. I guess they didn't have to take a GRE or an ACT to become a Light Warrior. So now that he's suffered through the cutscene, Xelnas is able to step on the teleportation tile and head right out. And so now he's going to head to the water cave so that way he can pick up the warp cube. Now there's only like a couple tiles where you can land the airship. So you have to memorize where those are. It's almost like the game itself is trolling you. It gives you the airship, which promises you fast world transportation. And once you get the airship, it's like the game toys with you and says, yes, you can move around the globe as fast as you can, but you're going to have to do lots of walking. So it's very important for our sprites to be good on cardio, because they're going to be doing a lot of walking. It's a Final Fantasy staple, walking. I know, Xelnas, you were making so much progress. And your ambush has started up again. I've actually seen some people on their timer. They'll actually have an ambush counter, and so they have like some key on their keyboard programmed so that every time they have an ambush, they can tap the key and it'll keep track of all their ambushes. I am not tech savvy enough, as evidenced by the fact that I jumped on the stream a little late because I was getting everything set up to commentate. But enough about me. Xelnas just got a 1 in 64 encounter with the Green Dragon. So you cannot run from the Green Dragon. Green Dragons are unrunnable throughout the entire game. You just have to fight through them. The Blue Dragon encounter that HolySmith just had was a spike tile. So you have to fight through that Blue Dragon, but he doesn't put up too much of a fight. Now the bad thing about the first floor of the Flying Fortress is the RNG is really high. So all these random encounters that he's having, almost one after another, is not uncommon. It happens a lot. It can be very frustrating. Evil Eyes are always unrunnable, so HolySmith is going to have to fight through that. Xelnas has just picked up the Warp Cube. And he's picked up the ribbon. Now if you watch, what he's going to do with the ribbon is he's going to head over to the Black Mage, put the cursor on the helmet slot, and then he's going to glitch a Gigan Axe. Now the reason we glitch the Gigan Axe, and this is the only time we do it, is so that way we can glitch a ribbon onto every character. If you were to play this game casually, I believe there's 3 ribbons spread out throughout the entire game. But when you have the power of the glitch, we can put ribbons on everybody. And we're going to want ribbons on everybody. The cool thing about ribbons is they greatly heighten your magical resistance. So now AoE magic attacks are much less of a danger to wipe out your party. That's one bonus. The second bonus is most status ailments are now blocked. So I don't believe you can be petrified anymore. And Earthquake is now a freebie attack. You cannot be killed by Earthquake once you have ribbons equipped on everybody. So the ribbon is a very awesome item that we finally have access to. HolySmith is now fighting the cliche dragon boss. We have to fight Tiamat. It's a fantasy themed game. There had to be a dragon boss somewhere. Now he's using haste so that way he can try and speed up the fight. Unfortunately, he never got to really benefit from that because the thief didn't get to attack. So now Xelnas is making his way over to Dr. Une so that way he can, within the next 20 to 30 seconds, learn the language of Lufenian. And on HolySmith's side, we will see the Light Warriors be surprised one more time by crystals turning on. Now the cool thing with the Flying Fortress, at least in the NES version, the Flying Fortress looked so futuristic. So it really helped to play on the fact that there's a time loop going on, where the Flying Fortress was just, it looked almost like machinery and stuff like that. So something similar to you would have seen maybe in Final Fantasy IV in the oh my gosh, what is that thing called? The giant walking thing. But in the PSP version, they elected to make it just really shiny looking castle instead of a futuristic flying fortress. Alright, so after a little bit of trouble navigating on the map, Xelnas is now wandering down to Lufenia. So that way he can pick up the chime. So HolySmith has entered the Chaos Shrine. Now this cutscene is absolutely meaningless for us. If you wanted to do all the bonus content, this opens up the final bonus dungeon and you could go through it. If you're not aware that you just need to walk in and touch the black crystal ball, you might be tricked to going into that bonus dungeon, like this guy did. That happened to me when I was first casually playing through this game as I was getting reacquainted with it in December. So I had to refer to my running notes to realize that that was a red herring and to ignore it. You'll notice Xelnas is having a little bit of issues with NPC movement. The blue-haired guy walked in front of him in Melmont, so he had to cast a teleport spell to get out. And then here he had an NPC block where he had to push one of the Lufenians out of the way. HolySmith just ran into a purple worm. Purple worm is one of the many unrunnable encounters in the Chaos Shrine. The Chaos Shrine is chock full of them. And also chock full of purple worms. But purple worms are better than a purple haze running through your brain. Now, white dragons are a runnable encounter. Many runners will go ahead and set up a way to kill them just in case you don't get away. Just because 4 white dragons casting Ice Storm can be very painful. So, as a safety precaution, HolySmith went ahead and had the white mage with the Judgment Staff. So, even though Warrior, Ninja, and Black Mage failed in getting away. You know, the same thing. You know, what happens to a white dragon that gets hit with flare from a judgment staff? The same thing that happens to everything. It gets obliterated. And so HolySmith has run into a green dragon encounter. This is no longer a 1 in 64. This is not a rare encounter, but it's still an unrunnable encounter, so he's going to have to take them all out. And once you have more than 2 of them, it's usually better just to go ahead and nuke them. And I've heard green dragon is really good nuked. It gives it a nice crispy texture to it. So xelnas is slowly making his way through the Mirage Tower so he can get to the Flying Fortress. HolySmith has stepped on a spike tile. This is the only time in the game that I'm aware of that you fight the Death Eye. And the Death Eye puts up as much of a fight as the Evil Eye. You can pretty much one hit and kill it. And now HolySmith is using the loot. The item that we picked up from Princess Sarah at the very beginning of the game. You finally get to use it in the final dungeon. But like I told you, in the NES version, it will troll you hard if you do not pick it up and don't realize you didn't pick it up. You can play through the entire game, get into the Chaos Shrine, which you cannot escape from once you go inside, and you're trapped. You cannot advance in the game. Ugh, NES games. I think they were trying to channel the spirit of Contra. So now that we've played the loot, we've gone through the ladder. Now we're just going to move through the rest of the dungeon in reverse. But now we'll have access to other parts of the Chaos Shrine that we didn't before, because now having gone through that ladder, even though B3 looks the same, B2 will be completely different. Now the Ice Geekish Winter Wolf encounter is still unrunnable, so we will watch HolySmith completely obliterate them. Now xelnas is in a runnable encounter, but they ambushed him. Now if you were watching on xelnas' screen, you would have seen a sword animation. So the sword animation is what happens with some of the items that we put in the shield slot. So since we don't really use shields, for the majority of the run, the shield slot is empty. Now at this point in the game, most runners will either put Lordly Robes or the ribbon in the shield slot. Now the reason we do that is because when the game randomly picks what block, if there was going to be a parry, if the ribbon or the Lordly Robes are in that slot, it will just use the parry animation of a sword. If you put the wrong items in there, say a black garb, a thief armlet, something like that, it will actually soft lock the game. So you have to be very careful as you're glitching things around that you leave that shield slot open unless you're putting a Lordly Robes or the ribbon in there. So xelnas will finish beating up the cliche dragon fight. And HolySmith is making his way to refighting all 4 fiends again. Now, of the 4 fiend fights that we're going to be doing in this Chaos Shrine, Lich is the most dangerous, which is really interesting that in the speed run, Lich, the first time you fight him, and Lich, the second time you fight him, is probably the trolliest boss that we're going to run into. And that's because the first time we run into him, he can Blizzaga and wipe our party out. And then when we fight him the second time, he can actually cast Flare and party wipe us. Which, by the way, 10-year-old me, when I was trying to play this on the NES version, the second time I was fighting Lich, he kept wiping out my party. Ruined 10-year-old me's life. I stopped playing Final Fantasy I forever until I found out that there was an easier way on the PSP using this glitch. Now HolySmith had to fight through those earth elementals. That is another unrunnable encounter. For the most part, all elementals in the Chaos Shrine are unrunnable, except for air elementals. For some reason, air has no way to trap you. Alright, so HolySmith has stepped on the spike tile, triggering Lich. I didn't see if he safety saved. Hopefully he did. That was probably an awesome thing. Lich did try to attempt a melee attack, so now Lich is gone. So for the most part, unless RNG really abandons HolySmith, he should have a fairly clear path to Chaos at this point. You'll notice xelnas is in the Chaos Shrine at the entrance. This is where he fought Garland earlier. You'll notice that he's surrounded by bats. So, spoiler alert, the bats are Lufenians. Or Lufenians, however you want to pronounce it. So those are the people that, the airship that we're flying around with, that was their airship. They attempted to stop the time loop and got turned into bats for their trouble. Now, throughout the entire game, until you learn Lufenian, you cannot speak to the bats. If you wanted to, now that you know Lufenian, you can talk to all the bats and they'll tell you their long, sad story, as well as touch the black orb. So HolySmith is now fighting Marilith for the second time, and xelnas is in a green dragon encounter, so he will have to fight his way through those. That's okay. 10-year-old me is now a 37-year-old me. I've gotten over it through lots of counseling. Now, for the most part, unless HolySmith runs into water elementals, you can pretty much run from just about everything on this floor. Alright, so xelnas is now wandering over to the tablet, so that way he can play the lute. Now here's an interesting thing. Water Elemental. What's the spell that does the most damage to it? Blizzaga. So apparently, tips to young new players, throwing ice cubes at water will hurt the water. Thundra doesn't do nearly as much damage as Blizzaga does. Now here's Kraken again, and you'll notice that Kraken is really not going to put up a whole lot of a fight. HolySmith should have no problem getting through Kraken. The worst thing Kraken can do is ink everybody, and because we have ribbons now, it doesn't do anything. And xelnas is having to fight through zombie dragons. That is an unrunnable encounter. Well, maybe you freeze it. I don't know. Wouldn't that then turn the water elementals into frozen elementals? Frozen elemental sounds bad. That would be like a swirling dervish of ice chunks. I'm having like bad flashbacks now of like horrible snowstorms in Nebraska growing. So the nice thing is, because HolySmith has ribbons on everybody, that Thunderbolt attack that Tiamat does could be very devastating, but it still hurts, but not nearly as much as it would if we didn't have ribbons on everybody. You'll notice xelnas is doing the safety tactic where he has everybody running except for White Mage. White Mage is going to attempt to do the Judgment Staff. And he got away. But he's going to have to heal up because that was 2 Ice Storms, and that does a lot of damage. And on this floor of the Chaos Shrine, you'll have the opportunity to run into White Dragons a lot. Now you'll see HolySmith doing the last major glitching you're going to see in the run. He's basically going to try and prep and make it so that way the White Mage will be able to cast Healera and do probably 250 points of recovery on every character. And then he'll put the Barbarian Sword on the Black Mage. And then he's going to ether up and make sure that the White Mage has full magic And the black mage, well, the black mage right now has enough magic. It should be fine. But it's still a safety precaution to go ahead and heal him. And remember that knight that said he was so tough he was going to knock us down? Well, apparently 2,000 years in the past, he turns into like a weird anime monster and really does have the ability to knock us down. Alright, so now you will see why we have the white mage for the most part. Alright, so let's see. Alright, he elected to only giant tonic the black mage. He's going to cast haste on the ninja because the ninja has the highest attack in his party at this point. So you haste the ninja first, so that way as the ninja starts to hit incredibly hard, he can do a lot of damage and hopefully cut down how many rounds you have to fight chaos. Now because the ninja has over 300 HP, that's why HolySmith probably elected not to use the giant's tonic. Because unless it's like a really big AoE spell like Cyclone or Tsunami, the ninja should have no problem. Alright, xelnas has taken down Lich 2. Alright, here's Tsunami, so we're going to see. Oh, the ninja almost died, but not quite. Now, that's an interesting tactic. I haven't seen anybody do that before. He went ahead and used the healing staff with his black mage, and so he basically casted 2 heal all spells. So instead of using his black mage for additional melee damage, which is what most people do, he's electing to use the black mage and the white mage to heal all of his characters every round. Uh-oh. Did xelnas accidentally trigger a second Lich? I'm sorry, I was looking at the chaos. I actually found that out earlier today. That the tiles that the fiends are on in the Chaos Shrine are actually a spike tile. So if you step on it, fight the fiend, and step the wrong direction and step back on that tile, you have to fight that fiend again. So earlier this afternoon, I got to fight Merilith twice in the Chaos Shrine. Now at this point, HolySmith is at hold X, so he should be good to go. He should probably beat Chaos this round. And that's time. Now I'm not in SRL, so I don't have the SRL time, but 1:35 is a really good time. So, GG HolySmith. Let me see. Yeah, let's see. We'll see if he wants to jump in for an interview. xelnas is going to continue to make his way to chaos. Unfortunately, he's fighting water elementals, so he's going to have to... Why? Okay, there we go. My feed froze for a second there. Oh, I know what happens. Every time I click the restream window, it pauses it. My bad. Rookie commentator problems. All right. So xelnas making his way over to Kraken. Let's fight Kraken for the second time. Oh my goodness. He is getting ambushed a ton. What is that, 26 now? There's nothing you can do about that either, other than what we've already done, which is to stack as many agility items as we can to try and make it so we can outmaneuver the monster parties. Now, Water Elemental is not a runnable encounter, so he's going to have to sit here and hack and slash his way through them. And I tried the other day, you'll see on HolySmith's screen, the slowly moving text is, you can read all that if you want. It basically just says, the cycle has been broken, the world has been saved. So I just saved you having to read slowly scrolling text for the next 5 minutes. You're welcome. You're welcome, HolySmith. You did a great job. I could tell from your counter, because it's red, that that's probably not a personal best, but still 135 is a really, really good time. That's one of the things as I've been talking to people who have been in the Total Chaos tournament multiple times. You'll notice that it says Total Chaos 3. This is actually the third iteration of this tournament. From what I understand, and then in the Total Chaos 1, really good times were like high 130s, low 140s. And now with the new strats that have been developed over the past couple of Total Chaos tournaments, to be competitive in the tournament, you have to be getting mid 130s, low 130s. So for instance, for me, when I started the tournament earlier in January, I was in the mid to low 140s. By the time I finished the tournament, I was getting around mid 130s consistently. So that's one of the great things about this run. If what you've watched here has kind of gotten you interested in learning this game, this is a fairly easy game to pick up. I actually started speed running this game in December. So in about 60 days, I've been able to learn the game enough that I have gotten to a 130. Now it looks like HolySmith is in the race channel, so I'm going to see if I can pull him into the tournament channel, so that way we can do an interview. Let me see if I can get this to work. Let's see. Ooh, hold on. Let's see. Can I invite HolySmith into the channel? All right, I see him there. Oh my goodness, I'm tapping buttons. Nope, that is not what I wanted. All right, I'm trying to pull you in, HolySmith. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. All right. Hopefully, somebody else who's done commentating before can bail me out and pull HolySmith in, or tell me how to pull HolySmith in. xelnas is slowly working his way on hasting his warrior and his ninja, so that way he can take down chaos. From looking at it, it looks like he did the Giant's Tonic on both his ninja and his thief to make sure that they had a high enough HP. Oh, instant invite. Oh, did I figure it out? Wait a minute. No, that's not it. All right, and xelnas should be just about done with Chaos. He's pretty much at the hold X at this point. There's not a whole lot that Chaos is going to be able to do to stop him. You know, the thing I hate about Tsunami and Cyclone is those are his longest animated. And that's it. GG xelnas. Oh. There's a 143. So great job to both our runners today. Unfortunately, I am not having any luck trying to pull them into the channel so we can do an interview. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Because HolySmith is there, I can see him. I just can't pull him in for some reason. Nope. Well, I apologize. I'm not going to be able to pull them in. I cannot figure out how to get them into the tournament channel for an end of race interview. But I hope you've enjoyed what you've watched this evening. Like I was mentioning earlier, Final Fantasy 1 on the PSP any % is a fairly easy run to pick up. There's a guide. Oh, hello.
I can't pull him in either.
Oh, well, xelnas is here. Hello, xelnas.
Hey. One sec. Okay. One second. I have to move my TV. It's got the stream on.
All right. Well, welcome to the stream.
Yeah.
You did a great job persevering through all those ambushes you had throughout the run.
I've never had a run that bad. At least not in the early game. I've had runs betray me, but I've never had a run go off that often. 2 runs in a row, actually. More than it was 2 runs in a row that were that often.
Now, I'm sure everybody who's still on the stream is. How many ambushes did your ambush counter get to?
I was just counting in chat. That's what I was doing. It was 26, I think.
26.
Well, I wasn't even counting on runnables, which I think I thought I was doing good, and then all of a sudden in the end it was like both times I got like 10 to 15 like Drayden encounters. Like, what am I gonna do?
Well, that was one of the things I was telling all the people who are watching the stream, that once you hit the Chaos Shrine, there are so many potential unrunnable encounters that it can really slow you down as you're trying to make up time in the Chaos Shrine.
That's weird. I can move Holly. One second. One second. I might be able to drain from a different channel. I can trade, I can move us and the restream in there.
So as you're going through your run today, or this evening, what were some of the things that stuck out to you?
Unrunnables?
Well, I mean, aside from that.
One second. I'm gonna move the restream in there, and then go to general, I'm gonna move the restream and then I think I can do that. Nope, I can't. Never mind. Okay, that's very weird. But yeah, there was a lot of unrunnables. I was actually really mad at this. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, so I was going to ask you. So with both you and HolySmith, you're both using the older barbarian sword route. Is there a reason that you stuck with the older route instead of going to the white mage lust dagger or the black mage lust dagger?
Because I like the power fantasy of hitting somebody over the head as a ninja with a giant sword.
Well, I mean, who doesn't enjoy that? I mean, the opportunity to just kind of buzzsaw your way through every enemy.
Yeah, there's nothing else left today on the schedule for anything. Except for... Yeah, nope, nothing. Everything's done on speed gaming tonight. There's but yes, it's gonna be me versus Forsyth for our game 2 tomorrow morning, and we are going to be right before Nikki Noel, who used to run this game very well, but I think currently doesn't run any of her RPGs as far as I know, or at least not active.
Yeah, I haven't seen her run much since she got Final Fantasy II world record.
Yeah, well, she has I think a hand issue, which is, but then now she's playing Link to the Past. So I don't know. So, but yeah, which is also what I've been doing. But I've just been practicing menuing, and I thought I've been playing randomizer on and off. So, but I think the world map is actually feels different enough that I was screwing up my movement more than I thought, because like I don't make those mistakes if I'm playing randomizer. Like the route in PSP is actually very similar to routes that you can take in certain randomizer flags. So like Ice Cavern first, Ice Cavern early is a ballsy but worthwhile play sometimes, purely because of the experience you can get there. Depending on if you're running incentivized Ice Cavern. If you're running incentivized Ice Cavern, going there early is very good, because you'll either get a key item or like a Mazamoon or a ribbon, etc. Things that you need. And I play 500%. I only ever play 500% mode, so with incentivized blades on. So that's a very good play because you get a billion experience.
So, how long have you been running Final Fantasy 1 PSP any percent?
Since about November of last year, roughly. Yeah, that's about right. November or a little bit earlier of last year.
Okay, so
by last year I mean 2016.
Okay,
Well,
2016.
I was in the last tournament. I played a lot better in the last tournament, but I haven't been focused on FF1 PSP. The tournament kind of snuck up on me, and I wasn't practicing, and then I didn't practice, and I got sick, and I've been busy with other stuff, like a full-time job, which I didn't have at the start of the last tournament.
Well, you had a pretty good race tonight.
Yeah.
I know there was a lot of frustration with it. Now, as far as your race tomorrow with Forsyth, does that race have a potential of getting you qualified for the next round?
No, I'm 0-3 right now. There's no way. With Holly beating me twice, I think it's guaranteed to be. HolySmith. I'm pretty sure it's guaranteed to be HolySmith and Forsyth from our group moving on. So
okay,
I'm just gonna play it for fun. I am though gonna start grinding this for the next couple of weeks very seriously, because I always grind it for about 2 weeks, like the week before and the week of GDQ submissions, because I submit this game to GDQ every year now. So it will get in eventually when they realize it's not the same name as the NES version or the GBA version, which fun fact, I keep complaining about it on Reddit, and eventually I got I got it noticed by what's his name, the head guy, and he's like, "So what's different between them?" I'm like, well, it's 2.5 hours shorter for one thing. You also can never die. It's just very fast. I was like, it's a very different game. It should be given a shot. Also, if these tournament races prove anything, it's also a very exciting race. And on top of that, it is it's very easy to commentate. You can pretty much fill in with either action talk, lore talk, or whatever. Like, there's more than an hour and a half of commentary. Even like you honestly can. It's honestly an hour and a half straight of commentary every time. You can never get bored of commentating in this game because it's so easy to just talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool and interesting things, and it's been fun as I've been listening to the commentary from some of the other people who run it. It's interesting to see what different things that people research, whether it's the abilities of the different weapons or the different characteristics of the enemies. It's just really interesting to see how everybody else zeroes in on specific things.
Yeah. I mean, it happens. The Lost then. I'm gonna be grinding this and Link to the Past, no major glitches. And not like randomizer, I mean like the actual game. Because that tournament's coming up. And actually probably Mega Man 2, because I didn't sign up for that tournament even though I can't zip. So I'm just gonna shout out those 3 tournaments because I like all 3 of those. The NMG tournament's gonna be super good. But Mega Man 2 is like, seriously, you're watching anything on speed gaming, you should watch the Mega Man 2 tournament. Mega Man 2 is one of the best speed games ever made.
Well, it is definitely interesting to see a lot of the glitches that they use in Mega Man 2.
I'm not even going to be doing the glitch drought because I don't want to learn zips. I'm lazy. I actually run my own category for Mega Man because I hate 2 things, zips and Wily stages. So I literally am the only person, as far as I know, who's run zipless 46 Robot Masters.
Well, before we cut off the stream, is there any concluding comments you wanted to tell everybody before we sign off for the night?
If you're watching this and you've never learned a speedrun before, learn this one. It's easy. There are a lot of resources and a fairly active community. Branching from this to pretty much any other speedrun is very easy. It teaches you the ethics of finishing runs regardless. It teaches you the ethics of just dealing with RNG. Teaches you a lot about speedrunning, and it's got a very low learning curve. It also teaches you RPG basics really well, like menuing, the importance of menuing. So I always say that this is probably one of the best first speed games if you're like... Also, the glitch is easy, and it's not like it's kind of game breaking. But it doesn't change how you play the game, it just changes, like, what we do. It doesn't change the context or shell of the game, it only changes a little bit. That's how I always describe it. It's not a big deal.
Well, I've included the Discord link for anybody who's still in the chat and on the stream. So if you're interested, feel free to click the link and jump on the Discord server, and you'll find, at least like xelnas was describing, and as I've discovered, having only been part of the FF1 speedrunning community since December, they're very easygoing. They'll answer all your questions, even your dumb ones, and everybody just wants to see this community continue to grow and have more people running it.
Yeah, it at one point was the most ran. I think it still is the most ran full game. Most ran Final Fantasy that has a full game category, or most runners in a full game category. It bounces between that and FF9 a lot.
Well, I think that pretty much concludes the stream here. So thank you all for watching this evening. This is the last thing that'll be on Speed Gaming 2 this evening. Feel free to watch again tomorrow when you watch
xelnas and Porsyth race. And other than that, everyone have a good night.